Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fred.
This is Real Talk with George and Frazier. What's going on, brother?
Not much, man. Just relaxing, chilling.
Yeah, it's definitely chilling here, man. Listen, so we went from 70 degrees when you was up here to it
Yeah.
was in the 50s. Now, man, look, it's about 36 degrees, all right,
Yeah.
outside, but it feels like, all right, it feels like 29. Man, this is crazy, this roller coaster that we're
Wow.
having. And for the rest of the week, the highest is going to get into the mid 50s.
That's it, the highest?
The highest.
Wait, see, I don't know what's different than the high and the high, because my high is very high. And it's 80 degrees.
Yeah, man.
They high, that's still low.
Yeah, man. So it's crazy. Like we up here, man, and we don't even know how to dress.
I know, right?
It's just like that. And I've been consistent with during this weather, you always bring a jacket, stay warm so your body heat can regulate itself. You got people walking outside with t-shirts one day, the next day they putting back on a winter coat, sneezing. I'm like, yeah, this is pneumonia weather. This is coronavirus weather. This is flu weather, anything you want to call it.
Everything, all in one, born in one little group. And me, man. I go from hot climate into the cold climate. I'm like, it's interesting, but it's cold.
Yeah, man.
But daytime was good though. See, daytime was nice and warm in daytime, but at nighttime, that's when it's like.
And people don't understand how severe it is when you go through those 20 to 25, maybe 30-degree drops from the daytime to the nighttime, and that cold air, depending on what you're dealing with, gets into your chest and you can't shake it. And you don't even know what it was or how it was. It's just a complete drop in temperature that almost attacks the immune system because it doesn't know how to respond, man. It's crazy.
Exactly.
This happens every year, but this hasn't happened like this with COVID. You see what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
So it's going to be an interesting spring, brother.
Oh, who are you telling? Because they were talking about now some places, winter came back. I have friends in Chicago. It started snowing again.
Yeah.
It just warmed up. Like we just warmed up and snowed again. They had a heart attack. They don't have a heart attack. Like, no, not again.
Yeah, man. This I hate to say it, but this climate change is real. I saw something last week where there was a 5-mile stretch of a polar ice cap that had cracked. 5 miles long, and it's just like, no matter what you say, no matter what it is, look, there's even data out there that from last year when we were locked down for those 3 or 4 months, 5 months, they have data that shows that the even air quality had cleaned up a little bit because airplanes weren't running like that.
Exactly.
Even if it's 2 or 3%, you can't deny it that, we have some type of effect on what's happening and how it's going on, man. It's not a political discussion. It's just simply a natural discussion, And if people didn't truly believe it, Ford wouldn't be trying to make electric cars completely 100% electric. You see what I'm saying? And that's what they're getting into. So enough said with that, man. Listen, we got a banger today. I always say we got a banger, but this is actually important because we're talking about investments. We're talking about tax-deferred investments. We're going right into real estate. We're going into a lot of different things. And we have coming on shortly Mr. Brett Swarts. He will be here, and he will be talking about this particular subject. And this is extremely important because we're also going to be talking about the fans and our listeners going into pre-corona. Everybody's worried about that stimulus check, but nobody's sitting here and talking about what that stimulus check will do for you. I realize the government is trying to put that money into the economy as soon as possible to stimulate the economy and everything that they're doing. But you have to start thinking over and past coronavirus and this infection, because now that we have the proper administration in place that actually cares about what happens to us, we will be vaccinated, even if it's by September, the latest. And we now have to decide, in my opinion, how we're going to come out of this and what we have on the back burner. So what does that mean? What do we have for October, November, going into December and going into 2022? A lot of people may be saying, oh, well, we're going into an election season and it's midterms already and so forth and so on and blah, blah, blah. But midterms, political midterms, don't deal with your personal investments. They have a slight little tick as to what would happen, what the market would do, or how it perform. But if you don't have any deals on the table, if you haven't thought and said, look, through this particular process of coronavirus, we know friends that lost people who weren't financially set. We know this, we know that. You have to start. You have to start, because literally this new administration is depending on us to jumpstart this economy. Exactly. So all the deals that you had, that you lost, that you thought you couldn't get, they're waiting. All the employees that lost a job, that are looking for new place of employment, they're waiting, And this administration is very, 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 very friendly to new opportunities that will be put in place through the money through the trillions of dollars that they're putting into the economy to stimulate the economy. So unlike the last administration, while they were cutting things and taking things away to amend that $2 trillion tax cut, $2.9 trillion tax cut they gave, this administration is putting money into the economy to jumpstart the economy. You see what I mean? And bring a lot of those grants, bring a lot of those jobs, start new programs in place. It's very blue collar oriented, this administration. So this might be one of those times, and we saw this again in 2007, 2008, but this might be one of those times where you take the leap, you take the jump, you go ahead, because, God forbid if there's another administration change, we're not going to see something like this again for a while. 2008 was a fluke. Well, a lot of people were predicting that it would happen, but 2008 really was a fluke, because even every time a housing market corrects, it doesn't correct to that extreme that we saw in 2008. Exactly. If you remember, Fraze.
It's true. But the moment money came in, the old saying is you put money in to make money or to re-stimulate something. And what happened before, even when the Great Depression, in order to get out of the Great Depression, the government tell you they pumped a lot of money back into the economy. Majority when I say urban neighborhood, because urban neighborhood we spend more money. They pump more in that particular area at one particular time, because they know they're not saving. They're going to pump money back into the system. As soon as they get it, they're going to spend it.
Yeah, but what I'm talking about, even the severities of what happened. If you remember in 2008, brother, there were people that were jumping out of their windows and dying, killing themselves when they looked at their portfolios and seeing that they had lost 70%, 80% of their value. A lot of people don't know this, but Iceland went bankrupt because they had their government pensions, okay, in U.S. mortgage-backed securities, because they were making money hand over fist at the time, and they couldn't lose. And so, when you got those that are making those 15, 20% year in, year out, boom, of course we're going to do it. The country went bankrupt, an entire country, right, over mortgage-backed securities. There were people Christmas, New Year's Eve time that were jumping out of windows when they found out, hedge fund managers. If you don't believe me, Google it. So when I say when I say we got to that extreme, One of my properties lost $80,000 in value. $80,000. Okay. And now the question becomes, how do you recover from that? Well, you don't. You hold the property, you see what I mean, until you can get some value again, and come back to it. But you don't ever come back. You don't ever make it back.
That is true. Remember they say, I'm going to tell you before the last podcast, I told you, history repeats itself.
Yep.
The 50s happened, 2008 happens, and then what happened now? 2020. You see what I'm saying? So it teaches us basically to reset ourselves. And so many years of bad philosophies, bad habits, all this stuff pays off. But if we don't check it, it gets worse. Yep. If we don't check ourselves, the world has still checking themselves. And look at other countries. Look at Europe. The euro was so higher than the dollar. Now the euro almost equal to the dollar. If you look at it now, before they were like almost 60-some% to a dollar. Now it's almost 80. You know, so our dollar increased a little bit, their dollar decreased, and they try to now. Probably actually how they said they try and put the company to kick in out to England, trying to help to come to countries get back into the union by saying, look, we'll help you stimulate your country. Look, Greece, for one, they went broke during pandemic, and also 2008 also. They also have money invested in United States banks also. You see what I'm saying? So a lot of countries, they don't tell you, that was in Europe market also invested in the economy of the United States. Italy, for one, even though Italy dollar here, they can come here and dollars triple. You know, they want a few people to come here and buy property cash. Millions of dollars property cash, not just 500,000. You know, that shows how the dollar increases even in the pandemic. So now you say go back to it. Now it's up to us to re-stimulate our own country. It's our turn now to do it ourselves, which is the first time in your history they rely on the people to do it, not Congress or the House to do it.
Well, the Congress and the House jump-started it. But what they're saying, you're right. You're absolutely right. They jump-started it by providing the cash and the layout. But like everything else, there is a serious push now that you all have to do it because kind of we're not handcuffed. You see what I mean? The last administration wasn't really about the people. It was about the politics. It was about everything else but the people. I mean, think about it. It's the people's money, but you send a letter as a president to them to say, oh, I was the one that got this stimulus for you. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't make any sense. Or it doesn't translate as to how I don't want to say nefarious. That's the wrong word.
Yeah.
But how just backwards the entire process was. You know, for instance, when they talked about bank stimulation, bank stimulus checks and bank bailouts, what people don't know, and I very rarely say this, but I knew people in the financial industry. People don't understand that banks were about to collapse.
Exactly.
Banks were about to collapse. I'm going to say it again. Okay. And what that means when your bank collapses, you can't go to the bank and get your money out of the bank. Everything shuts down. And so when banks got their money through the bailout program that the government had put in place before the 2008 elections, okay, they put that in place literally to prop the banks so you didn't have a run on the banks like you saw in the crash of Wall Street in the 20s and everything else, because that would have been horrific. Okay, we would have seen some things that we had never seen in our lives if this government and other governments would have allowed their entire banking systems to collapse.
Exactly.
But that's why when Congress started asking the banks, well, what did you do with all the money we gave you through the stimulus program, that first one that we had for the banks, and what happened? It was basically like Swiss cheese. All they were doing was just plugging up holes as to what, you know, where was leaking, where it wasn't leaking, who did what. And those, you notice that during those requirements, a lot of the banks that said, well, maybe we should take and hold in reserve, when they realized how strenuous the government was when it came to repaying those monies, they didn't take the money. They were like, no, you know, we have this as a backup here, but we'll definitely try to make it without all these regulations that the government has put in place for this particular money.
Exactly.
And they betted on the banks, and the banks won. A majority of those banks, the bad actors went away, but a majority of those banks paid that money back with interest. And that's what stood up the economy to get us to where we were. You know, from 2008 to 2016, 2017 was when some of the most prosperous growth in this country, because we had access to capital to do a lot of different things. And I know after this last administration, we actually forget that. You know, I can't think of one time in this last administration when people talk about economy, where I could be like, oh man, we were straight. You see what I mean? And we had a great jump. The first year and a half was built on the previous economy that was put in place, not this economy. You know, it really wasn't. The stock markets had performed, but stock markets always perform. You see what I'm saying? When it comes to stability, because all stock markets need to perform, quite frankly, is just a direction. And whenever stock markets get a direction from governments, what governments are going to do, what governments are not going to do. Once they kind of get that information, then the stock markets will go ahead and make their decisions on how they want to move. So if interest rates are too high, too low, we're going to go into yields and bonds to get better yields. You see what I'm saying? If it's too high, we're going to go into something else to stabilize the market, because that's all investors are looking for in the stock market is a return. That's it.
That's why you find a lot of people start investing in overseas markets versus before, because that's that reason. Backup. So let the market go through a crash again. I think our money in the European market, got money in the Asian market, still pumping money all the way through, so it doesn't stop anything from happening. Some people, like you said, lost portfolio because they only had it in one particular market, which is our market. Which when they crashed, it's like you say, look, $80,000 in what 2 minutes. Some people lost $100,000 in 2 minutes. And some of the high, they said routine, some of the higher $2 million in less than 1 hour when the stock market crashed. And how can you really deal with that? Like you went from almost a $2 million portfolio to worth less than $1 million. And
the thing about it was, it had to correct. You're absolutely right. It had to correct. Here in New Jersey, people were, well, not just New Jersey, in a lot of places, people were paying more for their houses than they were actually worth.
Exactly.
Because they went from, well, this house that was worth literally $350,000 because somebody bought a house down the street for $425,000. They gave that house $425,000 value. Exactly. Then 3-4 years later, a guy sells his house down the block for $550,000. Now you think, oh, my house has a value of $550,000. You see what I mean? Exactly. And they were just playing that game like a shell game until the whole thing collapsed. So when the whole market reset itself, I went through the same thing. I had a piece of property that they said on paper was worth $185,000.
Yeah.
And I said, okay. And then they came back and said, nah, it's only worth $97,000 after it reset. Right?
Yep.
And I said, well, first and foremost, this $185,000 wasn't my number. This was the number that the appraiser and you guys gave me.
Exactly.
I don't know anything about appraising a property. So that's what y'all said.
Mm-hmm.
So if you guys are now saying that this piece of property is only worth $97,000, then you have to tax me for $97,000.
Exactly.
Not $185,000.
Exactly. Exactly. Now you flip the script on them. Exactly.
That's it. You got to tax me for $97,000, not $185,000. They didn't want to have that conversation because it's a loss of revenue conversation.
Exactly.
But we had that. Yes.
Exactly. That's what Miami. They put a house in the hood with average house value, REI value was $186,000. They built a house down the street going at $480,000. They try to increase it, not $100,000, not $200,000, almost $300,000 increase just down the street. Then on top of that, then when the market reset itself, the houses wasn't worth no more than maybe $250,000. Give or take. That is depending on what area you in. So they lost almost $200,000 of equity to the house. And not only that, they can't even resell the house because they bought it at $450,000 just to owe the bank that amount of money. Regardless of how you look at it, they throw that bank at $450,000. They don't care about the appraisal afterwards.
Right.
Or the property value. They were throwing at $450,000 for it. So we had a lot more foreclosure rate went from 20% to almost 80%. So that's average. They sold all the property development sold out 90% sold out. Out of 90%, 75% went in foreclosure.
Right.
Cut it upside down. They rather walk away from it than pay the extra $2,000 to the bank and pay that. And the bank, normally they insured, so they insured for $450,000. They went regardless of the picture. They turn around and reset a house for what $280,000, $290,000, and they still make money. They made $750,000 on that one house that you gave away to them. Did they think about it? No.
No.
Less.
You got paid twice. Definitely got paid twice. But there was also, I have to be honest with you, man, there was also situations just talking about housing. I mean, the reason why we're talking about housing is because we're waiting for Brett Swarts to come on. I just contacted him again, but remember that he is the CEO of his company. So at any given time, he could be on a call, being distracted, even though he had this appointment, and all this is about business. So we definitely appreciate him looking for us and taking the time to talk about this. But we're talking about tax deferments. We're talking about tax title certificates. We're talking about 1031s, everything that has to deal with real estate.
And on the DSTs, you got to know that either. So that's another thing I want to talk about very much. That people don't understand the advantage of it versus the different trusts they have going on. Which is I'm looking at too. Like it's amazing how some of that stuff is referred in real estate so easy that we don't know about.
Exactly.
They don't tell us about.
We're not familiar with.
Exactly. Exactly. And who will know you save 40% of your taxes at closing.
Right.
And come out making money off of a closing. Nobody know that. You didn't know one thing. I'm closing. I got my house. Get my keys. That's all they care about. That's what they care about. They don't care about coming away with something. And I look at something that says, I never buy a deal unless I make money off the top. Simple as that. He said, simple as that. If I make money off the tip of top, I ain't buying it. So if he don't have equity in my house, he's not even buying it. He's not walking away with some money, he's not even gonna buy it. But see, most normal people don't know that. They're just going to buy a house, a permanent domain to stay in and live it. That's it. They don't care about all the extra stuff. How they save money later on, how they affect their taxes a couple, 3 years from now. The value of the house can go up and you have to go back and refinance it and get the equity that way and get a lower rate. Nobody all that stuff. You know? So. That's why I'm glad we had the show today. So you can actually discuss all that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. So it's definitely going to be an interesting program. But like I was saying before, just to get back to my point, there were predatory lenders. There were lenders out there that were just looking at the money that was coming and was happening. And there were people that were willfully, quote unquote, naive. And, you know, sitting there buying a house based on an interest payment as opposed to an entire principal payment.
Exactly.
I had that happen to me when I was looking for a house in our area. The house was $325, but it appraised for $340. And he was trying to sell me on the fact of, well, even if it's at $340, the interest payment, because it was supposed to be a 10-year interest payment before it reset. Okay. The interest payment was only $1,300 for 10 years. Right.
Yeah.
And the game was you buy the house, you pay 10 years interest only. And then when it resets, when that interest rate sets, you go ahead and you pay the rest of it out. Right.
Exactly.
The reason why a lot of banks like that 10 years interest only payment was because they were getting the majority of their money up front. But a lot of people don't understand when you're dealing with real estate, especially if you have a mortgage and you're paying a principal.
Yep.
The reason why your paper gets sold to a lot of different banks is because once they say you're an A+ person, meaning that you've paid all your bills on time, your mortgage is worth a lot more money than the guy who's missing mortgage payments.
Exactly.
You see what I mean? He becomes C, he becomes D, he becomes an issue.
Exactly.
So banks usually get all of their money up front when it comes to interest and principal payments. That's why when you look at your mortgage statement, you'll see that you're paying more a month in interest than you are in principal. That's why when you take a 30-year mortgage, you pay 1.5 of what the house costs. So if you pay $100,000 for your house, by the time you get done, you would have paid $250,000 for your house in 30 years.
Exactly.
Okay, 1.5. All right. But if you look at your mortgage statement, you've paid a majority of that interest in the first 15 years.
Exactly. But
so they don't know that. So that's why a lot of banks, they don't care after 15 years if you lose the mortgage, because they sell the house now for the new value. They've gotten all their money from you, and you're the only one that loses when it comes to that.
Exactly. I call it a 3-step payment plan for me. Because you think about it. You get the mortgage, 15 years, you ever know every after 15 years, they want to increase your mortgage. They really want you to default. They don't want you to keep it. They want you to default. Because if you default on it, now they apply for insurance for damages and losses on their taxes. And now they don't get the value of the house we first bought it. They get a new value ERV for that property. So say that property at 2 years went up $250,000 and you bought it at $350,000. The house worth almost $600,000. What do they want? $600,000. Right. So they want you to default. Or they try to trick you into refinancing it at a lower rate, but don't tell you that they added another $100,000 to that when they refinance it to you. The hidden cost they put in it. Then the third way they get paid is, guess what? Now it used to be paid, like you said, Joy, they sell it to somebody else. Want to get a value at the higher value, now they say your mortgage is somebody else. Now they play the mortgage flip game. The banks don't tell you that. Oh, and you find out, wait, I got American Mutual. But who you are? Then you get a letter in the mail saying, guess what? I'm your new mortgage holder, and we want to increase your mortgage by another $150. Because over the next 2 years, we'll do another two. They keep doing it over and over again. So guess what? They got paid 3 times, almost going to the 4th time.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I was just talking about when they sell your paper. You know, you have to watch, if you know what you're looking for in your mortgage statements, you have to watch them very carefully, because a lot of those increase, they're saying they're holding those in reserves to be able to pay your taxes. Sometimes they do, and sometimes you don't. You have to reconcile that with your taxes. You see what I mean? So what does that mean? That means that you have to literally go sometimes and get the tax document from the county and the town and say, okay, what are my taxes this year? Because if your county raises your taxes by $75, let's say a year, but your mortgage is increasing by $100 a month, and they're saying they're putting that in reserves for your taxes and insurance, that means at the end of the year, you should have a check coming back to you, because you should have overages on your escrow. You see what I'm saying? If you don't do that, there's a problem, because the bank shouldn't be holding on to that. Like a lot of banks and a lot of people who process bank payments for banks, some of them are good at it, but some of them aren't. And if you're stuck in a situation where you're still dealing with a subprime lender or a lender that's not an official bank, because some lenders, what they do is process mortgage payments for major banks, Bank of America, Wells Fargo. Remember, in New Jersey, I don't know if anybody knows this, but Wells Fargo got in some trouble for their banking and what they were doing and how they were foreclosing on houses, to the point that the state of New Jersey had to kick Wells Fargo out of the mortgage business in New Jersey. You see what I mean?
Yeah, that's true. You're right about it, because you remember how the bank system really works. Is the bank really invests everything. They don't keep anything in-house. They reinvest your house. The pay you make a house is also reinvested.
Right.
So what you want to do is, you don't know it. I found out too recently. Recently that when you sign a mortgage nowadays, the money you're talking about, extra money, you really forfeit over. You don't know it, but you forfeit over to the bank, as in say for interest payment or something, whatever. If you're behind in payment, that's what you really using. You ever call the bank and say, "Excuse me, I'm going to be late on my next month payment"? The bank says, "Sure, what the heck? No problem. You're not getting away with that. That money you're going to pay, that check you're going to send you, is not used for that to cover that payment." You see what I'm saying?
Oh yeah, a lot of times a bank will hold a month in reserve, depending on what your credit rating status is. And another thing is they get you with that PMI. Okay, it's called Principal Mortgage Insurance. And the reason why they make you pay that PMI is because a lot of banks took losses. So that principal mortgage insurance says that it's almost like an insurance policy that you pay every month to make sure that that mortgage payment gets paid. Principal mortgage insurance. Now, if you have okay credit, they let you run it out through the term of the loan. If you have good credit, or they have any issues with your credit, they'll give it to you on a term. So in other words, if you're good for 5 years, after 5 years, you can now refinance your house. Okay, you can refinance your house, and they'll take away the PMI. So if your PMI is 175, your new mortgage payment will go down 175. But here's the trick with that. PMI, the reason why I like to keep the PMI is because that principal mortgage insurance is like any type of car insurance. That's there for me. It's really not there for the banks. And if you run into any difficulties, you'll always have that PMI that you can sit there and negotiate with the banks, because they're still getting their mortgage payment. You see what I'm saying? And that's something that you've paid for that they have to be able to honor.
Exactly.
The only issue with that is, like I said before, after 5 years, a lot of times they don't care, because normally if you have an A+ credit rating anyway, they're selling your paper to somebody else so they can pick up more mortgage paper. You see what I mean? But that PMI is the key, because a lot of people will get rid of it and go, "Oh, well, I don't want to pay that 175. 175 a month and you saving your house is better than not having that 175 and you losing the house and you losing the equity in the house because you lost the job. We're dealing with COVID now. People have lost jobs, this, that, and the third, and now you're sitting there and you're stuck. So you always have to play that game,
exactly.
When it comes to forecasting and what's really important to you and how it works.
That's true. I saw one guy, I was watching one guy, his philosophy is unorthodox. But he basically says is you make the property not, I say, valuable to the bank anymore. If you loan to keep equity in the house, the bank sees value. So he did what he took all equity out of the house. So basically the house has no equity. So you can't really, it's nothing to the bank to leverage. They want to sell it to somebody else. So he basically saying that if you do that, the bank will not allow you to sell your mortgage to somebody else because there's no value in it for them. Mm-hmm. They're actually gaining anything from it. Now, the ups and downsides of that is if you use your equity and you don't use it properly, then guess what? Now you're stuck. If something can happen, you can't refinance either. So it hurts you also both ways. It helps the bank, but it also hurts you too.
Right.
Now, say you take an equity out and you do it to invest in something else, or what he did was he turned around and paid a year of his mortgage, or put a year's mortgage in the bank. So what he did was he paid normal, and if something happened, he goes in, we call it an emergency fund, pays it through that way. So now what he does is he paying both ways. He's not level late, but he's not allowing the bank or the insurance to fuck it by using his own money in equity to help himself get out of debt or not miss a payment. You see what I'm saying? But then it goes also to how good are you in money management? Because some people know you got an extra bank account there. What you normally do? I'm gonna take a little bit here, a little bit there. But you got nothing there either.
That's proper money management. Any business owner, anybody that's been a part of a business knows that you have a no crap account. And the reason why I call it no crap account is because that account is there when you go, oh crap, this, that, and the third. And then you also have another account where it's like, no, this is my come hella high water account. And I tell my wife, there is this particular account right here that has this particular amount of money. This money is here in the event that you lose a job, I lose all my jobs, my business goes under, and this is how much money we have left to get our lives back and back on our feet again. After this, it's over. We got to start selling everything to be able to be salvageable. And she understands that. So nothing moves out of that account. That's the life and death. Anything happen to me, anything happen to you account. But you have to have those firm conversations.
Exactly.
Listen, fans. Yeah, it's true.
I think too. Now you said, but go back to the liquidate assets. A lot of people know that too. A lot of times when you liquidate assets, it can also be an advantage and a disadvantage. Mm-hmm. You see what I'm saying? Because sometimes too, if you over-accentuate your liquid assets, you have no backup plan.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? So your fallback is now gone. And some people don't believe in plan C. They be A and B, not a plan C or E. You see what I'm saying? That's why some people know some I'll say our counterparts have EDF.
Right.
They have bank accounts in several different countries because of that exact same reason. Because you never know when you have to liquidate some assets. That's why you buy that $300 million painting or that $250 car with a limited edition, because guess what? I need to sell it.
Look, that's true. A lot of our counterparts only have A, B, or C, but I've been through so much phrase, man, I have a Z plan. And then when I'm done with the Z plan, I go back to AA plan. You know what I'm saying? Because I can't go back to being broke the way I was broke before in my life. I can't restart. So it's definitely.
He said, hey, you buy stuff that carries value, and if you need it liquidated, you have it to liquidate.
That's right.
Don't go buy a car that everybody have, because guess what? This car costs $10,000 more. That $10,000 more in a couple of years gonna save your tush versus that same limit car everybody have. Nobody wants a car everybody have.
Right.
House everybody have. They want differential. One thing different. So if I go buy, say, a limited edition Ferrari, I'm just saying, I'm not gonna buy one. I'm just saying, if you go to a limited Ferrari, they only made 10 of them, right? Like, I cost you a pretty penny. But guess what? Accident happen. Somebody either loses one. So now that 10 cars end up being 5.
Right.
So 5 out of 10. Then who knows what happened 10 years after that? Now you got the only car left of that particular brand that made that year. So that car just went up from a little smaller $300,000. Now you paid $10 million. So that car not worth more than your house, your equity, everything else has. So guess what? If you need to get rid of it, guess what happens? Right. You ain't got to sell it. You can actually, insurance equity, where you can borrow money through insurance to pay your bills off. And actually liquidate out. And if you're really good at it, you put it in a museum, have them pay you a month to keep it in there.
That's right.
They paying you $500 a month to keep that car in there and shop. And on top of that, they got insurance on it too. So if it would have happened to the car right in their possession, you get paid through them, through your insurance company, and on top of that, it's some asset you can file taxes for asset loss and damages because it's not your fault. You just got paid 4 times for just one asset. You see what I'm saying?
It's true. It's true. Well, listen, fans, I've been reaching out to Brett, and I haven't heard anything back. I hope you learned a little bit of something from me and Fraser. Not that we're not experts and we can't sit here and talk for an hour, but you're definitely not tuning in to talk to us. We will try to reschedule with Brett to be able to get some of this information about tax deferment and investment. This is right up our alley, and you definitely want to be able to talk to an expert. But we are definitely sorry that he has not been able to show today. And, look, we just keep it real. So that's what's happening right now, and we'll definitely keep you posted when we can get him back on the show.
Well, definitely.
Hey, this is George.
Hey, this is Fraser.
And that was Real Us talking with George and Fraser. Peace. We'll see you all on Thursday.
See you Thursday.